Part 15. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyu Kandi. Chapter 141. Mrs. Kui was also a little moved when she mentioned cows, and she also wanted to have a cow at home. But the price of a cow is very expensive, more than 10 taels of silver. It is not cost-effective to buy a calf. Although it is cheaper by a few taels of silver, it is not cost-effective. The calf usually has little strength, so it cannot pull an ox cart, let alone pull a plow to plow the land. It is better to save money. When you have enough money, you can buy cattle. Mainly because their family has spent a lot of money here and there to build a house, buy bricks, pay craftsmen and carpenters, and customize some furniture and other things. Even now, Zhang Ziluo only has 9 taels of silver in her hands, which is not enough to buy a bullock cart. Zhang Ziluo also wants to buy a few acres of farmland after building a house. Hearing the price, Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, "Mom, let's not buy the cow now. After the house is built and you move in, buy some daily necessities first, and then earn some money." Mrs. Kui actually knew that building a big house really cost a lot of money. And in order to save money, they actually didn't buy many furniture and daily necessities. Only bought necessary supplies, such as wooden beds and cabinets. Now they live in a house rented to them by someone else, and the beds, cabinets, and other things in it are also from Li Zheng's house. This is not their thing. After moving, you have to buy something new. Mrs. Kui felt a little sad and said, "Ziluo, mother, please do more. Don't be stressed and don't work too hard." Mrs. Kui felt a little uncomfortable, feeling that the burden of the family was all on Ziluo. If Ziluo hadn't had a business idea to make these delicacies, they wouldn't be able to build a house until now. Not to mention such a big and beautiful house, Ziluo designed it herself. "Mom, don't think too much, I don't feel tired." In fact, Zhang Ziluo didn't feel it was hard. Instead, she enjoyed the slow-paced and relaxed pastoral lifestyle. There is no need to keep doing missions like in the previous life. Moreover, what I eat are all natural and green foods, and the air I breathe is so fresh. The folk customs here are also so simple. She actually likes it here. For her, it's like a relaxing vacation. The most important thing is to have him by your side. After a pause, Zhang Ziluo continued to comfort Mrs. Kui and said, "Mom, after we live in our own house, we will live comfortably and have a big place. We can do more things. Then we will have nothing to spend, so we can save some money. During this period, I mainly built a house and bought a lot of things, so most of the money I earned before was spent on it. But once the house is built, there will be no such expenses, and most of the money earned can be saved." Mrs. Kui thought the same thing. If there is braised food and chili meat sauce, even if you don't set up a stall to cook food, you can still earn 2 to 3 taels of silver a day, or dozens of taels of silver a month. Thinking of this, Mrs. Kui's heart became hot. Mrs. Kui smiled and said, "Well, then you don't have to worry." Lu Ting'an was helping Kui Hejin bottle the chili con carne sauce in the yard. He looked curiously into the room and said, "Brother Kui, why do I feel that your mother and your wife look like mother and daughter?" He thought it was incredible. Kui Hejin, "Yeah. No, brother Kui, aren't you surprised?" Lu Ting'an was shocked again. "It felt different when I came here before, and it felt more obvious this time." As soon as Madame Kui came back, she rushed to find her daughter-in-law, as if her son was just a decoration. Especially when Mrs. Kui was talking to Zhang Ziluo, they were all smiling and didn't look like they were pretending. Kui Hejin said calmly, "Well, Ziluo is very good. Mom likes her very much." Lu Ting'an twitched the corner of his mouth, scratched his hair and said, "No, most mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law have conflicts. I have never seen such a harmonious one. Let's just talk about my family. My mother doesn't talk much and does a lot of things. But sometimes my grandma will find trouble with my mother, and sometimes she has to set rules. Several times, my mother was punished by her kneeling down. My mother seems to respect my grandma very much, but I know that my mother doesn't like my grandma, but she has to endure it for my father's sake and for my filial piety. Hearing these words, Kui Hejin looked inside the room, and his expression changed as if he thought of something. He looked at Zhang Ziluo's busy figure, and his eyes were filled with a soft luster. Zhang Ziluo naturally didn't know what Lu Ting'an and Kui Hejin were talking about. She was discussing building a house with Mrs. Kui. At noon, the Kui family invited Lu Ting'an to have dinner with him. Lu Ting'an tasted the chili meat sauce and praised it excitedly. If the college had such delicacies, the students would also like to eat them. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. It would also be great if chili con carne sauce could be promoted to colleges. But there is no rush to arrange these now. There are too many orders and it's too busy. Let's do business in town first. During lunch, Lu Ting'an was talking most of the time. It's so delicious, wow, I've never eaten anything so delicious. I didn't expect stir-fried radish to be so delicious. And this winter melon soup, it's so delicious. The chili con carne sauce is even more delicious. Lu Ting'an was so satisfied with this meal. Lu Ting'an probably understood now why Brother Kui valued his wife so much. He guessed it might be because the food he made was delicious. After lunch, Zhang Ziluo looked at the noodles distributed in the morning. The noodles were already open, so she and Mrs. Kui made snacks together. Kui Hejin was going to help, but Zhang Ziluo said, "Your friend Xiaomu finally came here. You can talk to him. It's quick to make snacks, it won't take long. Mrs. Kui is very skillful in making pasta, and with the mold, 2 people can make it faster." After the pasta is ready, Mrs. Kui steams it in the pot. Although it cannot be compared with pastries, white flour food is noble, and white flour snacks like this are also rare. Moreover, Zhang Ziluo puts a little sugar in it, which makes it taste a little sweeter and more delicious. It doesn't take much thinking to know that when the dim sum is served, many people will come over to grab the dim sum. The scene will be lively. Mrs. Kui also prepared the firecrackers early. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, Zhang Ziluo took out 2 bottles of chili meat sauce and said, "Mom, when my husband's friend goes back later, take this with him. There's nothing good at home, and he happens to like chili con carne, so let him take 2 bottles back." Mrs. Kui nodded and said, "Okay. You are still thoughtful." Mrs. Kui Lofu always felt that Ziluo looked like a girl raised by a wealthy family. Zhang Ziluo looked at the chili con carne that had been packed in the yard, went to Li Zheng's house to borrow an ox cart, and moved the things onto it, preparing to send it to the agency. Of course Zhang Ziluo can put things in the space, but that will easily expose the space. So we can only use ox carts to deliver goods step by step. Just when Zhang Ziluo came to the door of the agency, she saw Miss Chen Huidi again. Moreover, when Chen Huidi saw Zhang Ziluo, his expression also changed. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 142. Chen Huidi recognized Zhang Ziluo the moment she saw her. A few days ago, Chen Huidi felt that Wei Xingyi was different from before, so he asked people around him to investigate the news about Kui Hejin. She even got a portrait. In her mind, Kui Hejin's wife was a village woman, who must be earthy and ugly. But when she saw the portrait, she couldn't believe how this person could be so beautiful. But when he actually saw the real person, Chen Huidi had to admit that this person was more beautiful than the portrait. Chen Huidi's eyes suddenly filled with a look of jealousy and unwillingness. Why should a village woman be prettier than her? Obviously she is nothing. However, this person not only became Kui Hejin's wife, but also hooked up with Wei Xingyi during this period. Wei Xingyi talked to her for 2 days in a row. She asked the maid to find out, and everyone under Wei Xingyi said that the person he mentioned the most during that time was Miss Zhang. It's not this Zhang's Hiluo. Chen Huidi's expression changed. Looking at Zhang's Hiluo driving the bullock cart, she gently covered her nose with a handkerchief and said with a look of disgust, "This must be Mrs. Zhang." Zhang's Hiluo raised her eyebrows and looked at Chen Huidi, with a sarcastic curve at the corner of her mouth. "I know you." Even if Zhang's Hiluo knew Chen Huidi, she would not pretend to know him. The maid next to Chen Huidi said disdainfully, "You are a village woman and you naturally don't know Our Lady, and you are not qualified to know Our Lady." Chen Huidi pretended to cough and said, "Fanko, don't be rude." Despite saying this, Chen Huidi obviously indulged the maid and didn't even scold her. The maid Fanko snorted coldly, "Miss, she, a village woman, was the first to be rude. No one dares to talk to you like this. Besides, who doesn't know that young Master Wei is good to the lady? This man is obviously married, but he still pesters young Master Wei and doesn't know how to behave." Zhang's Hiluo hugged her hands and sneered, "I'm pestering Mr. Wei. If you are mentally ill and have trouble with your eyesight, go see a doctor. Don't bark here. You're the one who, ah." The maid was about to continue scorning and scolding Zhang's Hiluo, when suddenly she felt something smelly fall on her head. She looked up and saw that it was a bird, and when she touched her forehead, she found that it was bird droppings. "Ah! Fanko is going crazy." Of course this is the reason why Zhang's Hiluo used some superpowers. Taking care of a little maid is a piece of cake. Chen Huidi looked at the maid shouting and screaming, and was also looked at by Zhang's Hiluo as if she was busy watching a show, and her face turned blue and white. "You." Zhang's Hiluo shrugged and said with an innocent look, "Someone is barking like a mad dog. It seems that the bird can't stand it anymore." Chen Huidi was so shocked that she was speechless for a while. She is used to using weak gestures to achieve her goals. Furthermore, her sisters in the boudoir also spoke very tactfully and reservedly among themselves. But the woman in front of me didn't even use curse words when swearing. She is indeed a shrew. Uncultured look. How could Mr. Wei treat such a person differently? Looking at Chen Huidi waiting for her to be angry, Zhang's Hiluo was in a good mood. Zhang's Hiluo squinted her eyes and looked at Chen Huidi lazily, and said coldly, "Miss Chen, I'm sorry, please give way. Don't let this cow rub your clean clothes. If you encounter it by accident, don't rely on asking for money." Chen Huidi covered her nose in disgust, but she didn't want to get out of the way. She bit her lip and said unwillingly, "Miss Zhang, I heard that you used some means to force Mr. Kui to marry you. You are a married woman. If you come to pester Mr. Wei, if people find out, you will be put in a pig cage." Zhang's Hiluo's eyes became colder. "Miss Chen, are you threatening me? Who told you that I would pester Mr. Wei? Even if I use some means to force my husband to marry me, so what? That's a matter between us and has nothing to do with you, an outsider. Besides, what is my relationship with young Master Wei and what I am going to do have nothing to do with you. What position do you have to accuse me and say these things? Who are you to Mr. Wei, and who are you to my husband? Oh, I forgot to mention that my husband hates the delicate white lotus the most." Zhang's Hiluo snorted coldly as she spoke. Chen Huidi dared to show off in front of her even with her little tricks. She even praised her by saying she was a white lotus. The means are naive. This was the first time Chen Huidi encountered someone scolding her in such a way. Not a single curse word was used in the whole process, but it seemed to have hit a sore spot for her. Chen Huidi's face turned pale. The movement at the door seemed to alarm the people inside. The guard went in to report, and Wei Xingyi had already walked out quickly. At this moment, Chen Huidi looked shaky and tears fell out. "Teacher." Chen Huidi turned his back to Wei Xingyi. Wei Xingyi immediately saw Zhang's Hiluo at the door and the things on the ox cart. He suddenly became excited, and his eyes glowed with starlight. "Teacher, Miss Zhang, you are here." His father and the brothers from the agency have been talking about chili con carne these days. He also said that he can get the chili con carne today. Unexpectedly, Master sent them in person. Wei Xingyi only had chili con carne in his eyes, and did not notice Chen Huidi, who was leaning against the wall and leaning against the wall. Zhang Ziluo raised her eyebrows and glanced at Chen Huidi in a funny way. Wei Xingyi has a youthful spirit and a relatively straightforward temperament. This kind of person does not have those crooked hearts and naturally does not understand the complicated thoughts of women. This kind of person is suitable for telling him something directly, rather than asking him to see and guess in a roundabout way. Chen Huidi really used the wrong method against Wei Xingyi. Zhang Ziluo pointed at Chen Huidi and said, "This Miss Chen seems to have misunderstood that I am pestering you." Upon hearing these words, Wei Xingyi's expression changed drastically. How could it be possible? This is slander and slander. Wei Xingyi was very angry. He respected his master very much, and naturally he would not allow others to say anything wrong about his master. When Wei Xingyi turned around and looked over, he immediately saw Chen Huidi. When he saw her tears, he hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Miss Chen, why are you here and why didn't anyone tell me?" Looking at Wei Xingyi's shocked and surprised look, Chen Huidi pursed his lips and said, "Can't I come to you?" Wei Xingyi touched the back of his head and said, "No, that's not what I meant. It's just a little sudden I used to go looking for you." In the past, he was always eager to find Chen Huidi. But his father did not allow him to have too much contact with the Chen family. But he just didn't listen to his father. "No, why are you crying?" Chen Huidi felt like vomiting blood from her heart when she saw that Wei Xingyi didn't understand her at all. Fortunately, Chen Huidi's maid recovered from her madness at this time and didn't care to catch the bird. She hurried over and said, confusing the right and wrong, "Young Master Wei, it was this village woman who bullied my young lady. She is obviously married, yet she is still pestering Mr. Wei, and she is actually trying to ruin Mr. Wei's reputation. Our young lady is kind-hearted and cares about young Master Wei's reputation. How could she have imagined that this man would insult my young lady?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 143. When Wei Xingyi heard that this maid actually said this about his master, a surge of anger rushed into his mind. He said loudly and angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? What a village woman, what entanglement! This is the distinguished guest I invited. A person who is more distinguished than a distinguished guest. This is his master. He is the person who entered the Wei family and took the top position. Whenever the master is present, he will sit down and bow his head." Wei Xingyi clenched his hands into fists and said, "If you weren't Miss Chen's maid, I would punch anyone who dared to speak like this. I don't care this time. If you disrespect Miss Zhang next time, I don't care who you are. I will do it directly." At this moment, Wei Xingyi no longer looked carefree as usual, but looked serious and sharp. The maids were frightened by Wei Xingyi's appearance. Her body trembled, and she could feel that Wei Xiaogang was telling the truth. If she said one more thing, Mr. Wei would be able to punch her. Even Chen Huidi didn't care to look pitiful and forgot to shed tears. She was looking at Wei Xingyi with shocked and incredulous eyes. He actually protected Zhang Ziluo without asking anything. Why? Why? Why should he protect a married woman like this? Isn't she much better than this Zhang Ziluo? Even Kui Hejin is like this. Chen Huidi looked at Zhang Ziluo with jealous eyes almost falling out. Zhang Ziluo held her hands in her hands and sneered, "Miss Chen, your maid said that I bullied you, How on earth can I bully you? Would you like to talk about it? Chen Huidi looked at Zhang Ziluo's joking eyes and felt that she was mocking her and making fun of her. Chen Huidi wiped her tears gently with a handkerchief, looked at Wei Xingyi, her eyes were like hooks on Wei Xingyi, and then she said softly, Ms. Zhang just said that I was an outsider and that you forced Kui Xingyi, my son. Marrying you has nothing to do with Mr. Wei, and it has nothing to do with me. I'm standing here blocking your way. I'm sorry, I'll get out of the way. As he said that, Chen Huidi walked forward, but twisted his foot and fell onto Wei Xingyi. Wei Xingyi didn't come back to his senses at all, and instinctively reached out to pick up Chen Huidi. But Zhang Ziluo pulled Wei Xingyi aside. Wei Xingyi's hand was empty. With a snap sound, Chen Huidi fell to the ground hard and fell to the ground. Ah! So caught off guard, Chen Huidi couldn't bear the pain and screamed. Her maid Fanko screamed, Miss, what's wrong with you? Woo, miss. Miss, you are such a good person, you came here specifically to see Mr. Wei, but you were bullied like this. Fanko carefully helped Chen Huidi, and Chen Huidi gasped in pain. She has never been so embarrassed. She hated it so much that she would vomit blood. Because of the movement just now, neighbors and nearby villagers gathered around to watch. Hey, what's going on? Isn't this Miss Chen? Why did she come to the Wei family? Still fell down in front of Wei's house. Everyone was talking a lot. On the other hand, Wei Xingyi was stunned after being pulled back. When she came back to her senses and wanted to help Chen Huidi, she felt something was wrong again. In the public eye, if he bumps into Miss Chen, it will be bad for Miss Chen's reputation. Zhang Ziluo looked at Wei Xingyi's dazed look and said, don't send Miss Chen to the hospital yet. Yes, send her to the hospital. Wei Xingyi hurriedly shouted, someone, take Miss Chen to the hospital. Wei Xingyi wants to go with him. Zhang Ziluo said, what to do with these chili meat sauce? Wei Xingyi suddenly came to his senses and no longer cared about Chen Huidi, and told his subordinates and the wife in the house to take good care of him. He hurriedly welcomed Zhang Ziluo into the house. Chen Huidi was in so much pain that she couldn't move her whole body, so she was carried to the hospital on a shelf. She was so angry that she fainted on the spot when she saw Wei Xingyi just taking Zhang Ziluo into the house. After entering Wei's house, Wei Xingyi suddenly came to his senses and said, Master, fortunately you just grabbed me and stopped me. I didn't react just now, but now I feel like I almost ruined Ms. Chen's reputation. It's not good if someone sees you pulling and tugging. When Zhang Ziluo heard these words, the corner of her mouth twitched. Chen Huidi just spoke, deliberately criticizing Sang and Hui, but it was a pity that Wei Xingyi couldn't understand. Moreover, she obviously saw someone at the door and wanted to fall on Wei Xingyi deliberately so that Wei Xingyi would be responsible. A lot of scheming. It's a pity that Wei Xingyi couldn't see it. Zhang Ziluo said, what if I didn't hold you back and Miss Chen fell on you? Huh, Wei Xingyi was stunned in surprise. He had not thought about this problem. Then, if it ruins Miss Chen's reputation, I will be responsible. I am a man and I have to be responsible. Zhang Ziluo looked at Wei Xingyi and said, you are still a young man, but do you plan to marry this Miss Chen? Wei Xingyi said, Master, this is what I think. Miss Chen is beautiful, talented, gentle, and virtuous. Unfortunately, my parents don't agree. I don't know why my parents don't like Miss Chen. It's a big matter of marriage. If I can't convince my parents about the matchmaker's orders, there's really nothing I can do about it. Wei Xingyi had already identified Zhang Ziluo as his master, so he told Zhang Ziluo whatever he thought and planned. Wei Xingyi's father runs an agency, and his mother is obviously not an ordinary person. She must have met many people, and at least has the ability to read people. It's normal for them not to like Chen Huidi. Your parents didn't tell you why? Wei Xingyi scratched his head while driving the bullock cart inside and said, "My father didn't tell me the reason, but he didn't agree with it very coldly. My mother said that I don't understand women, and women are sometimes different from what they appear to be. Anyway, my parents won't let me go find her. When I come across any good things and send them to her, my parents don't know." Zhang Ziluo looked at Wei Xingyi and felt that he was a typical middle school boy. Zhang Ziluo said, "You are right to pay attention to it in daily life. Girls pay most attention to reputation. Without the words of a matchmaker or an engagement, there can be no contact. It doesn't matter if you are a man. Miss Chen is a woman and so weak. What if she can't think about it?" Zhang Ziluo felt that if she directly told Wei Xingyi that Chen Huidi had a problem, he wouldn't believe it. It's better to put it another way, so that Wei Xingyi can pay more attention and not be plotted by that Chen Huidi. Wei Xingyi's expression changed, and he suddenly realized, "Master, you are right, I must pay attention to it on weekdays. I can't harm Miss Chen." When Zhang Ziluo heard these words, the corner of her mouth twitched hard. If this person was not her disciple, she would not talk too much and meddle in other people's business. Moreover, the way Chen Huidi looked at people and calculated them made her feel very uncomfortable. But Chen Huidi had better be smart and not provoke her, otherwise she won't be so easy to talk to next time. Let's not talk about this for now. There is chili con carne in this box. I have put it in bottles, one bottle at a time. If you go out to escort, it will be convenient to take it with you on the road. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 144. Upon hearing this, Wei Xingyi looked into the frame of the bullock cart and exclaimed, "Master, you just put it in a bottle this time. It will be more convenient to carry it with you. Master, you are still thoughtful. This way, if everyone goes out, they can bring chili con carne. Master, you don't know that after everyone ate this last time, they all praised it and kept talking about it. Not to mention them, even my parents and I also like to eat, but it's time to eat. Especially after a long day, I just eat this with steamed buns. It feels so comfortable after eating it." Anyway, he felt that after eating, his stomach felt full and he felt good, and he slept well. Wei Xingyi shared this with Zhang Ziluo endlessly. Zhang Ziluo looked at Wei Xingyi with his eyes full of chili con carne sauce, and seemed to have forgotten all about Miss Chen. She touched her chin and thought that maybe Wei Xingyi's liking for Chen Huidi was not necessarily true, and maybe he didn't even understand what feelings were. "You ordered 80 gin, 1 bottle per gin. Here are 80 bottles. Take a look at it. I will go back after delivery." "Ah, master, why don't you stay for a meal?" Wei Xingyi was a little reluctant, thinking that master had finally come here, but he didn't even entertain master well. Zhang Ziluo said, "I still have things to do at home, so I have to go back early." "You run well on weekdays?" "Yes, master." They were in the empty courtyard to the east, and there was no one there, so Wei Xingyi called him master. When Wei Xingyi ordered the chili con carne sauce, he paid all the money. "So this time Zhang Ziluo is just here to deliver goods. It was evening when I got home. Lu Tingan is still at home and has not left. He was helping Mrs. Kui pack snacks, one cloth bag after another. Auntie, I'll help set off the firecrackers later." Mrs. Kui said, "No, the village is arranging for people to set off firecrackers later. You must make good use of your hands for reading and writing, and be sure not to get injured." Lu Tingan didn't leave in a hurry because he thought Brother Kui's house would be built with beams and firecrackers and snacks set off, just in time to watch the excitement. "He can help you if you need help. He is not far home anyway." Hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo thought that it was just a good time to come back. She walked over and said to Lu Tingan, "It's too late to go to my parents today. I'll ask you later." "It's okay, sister-in-law, just ask when it's more convenient for you." Lu Ting'an could tell that Brother Kui cared about his wife, so Lu Ting'an naturally did not dare to disrespect Zhang Ziluo like before. He had learned a lot when he came to Brother Kui, and he was even more afraid of causing trouble. It's just troublesome for my sister-in-law. Looking at Lu Ting'an's polite look, Zhang Ziluo smiled lightly and said, "No trouble. It's still business anyway. And if more people use bellows and everyone knows the benefits of bellows, there may be many people asking about buying bellows from her father. This can also increase business for his father." As if thinking of something, Zhang Ziluo said, "By the way, I want to ask you about someone. Is it convenient?" Lu Ting'an said very cheerfully, "Sister-in-law, if you have any questions, just ask me directly. There is nothing inconvenient. I will tell you everything I know." Zhang Ziluo said, "Do you know a person named Su Muhan?" This person is the name Lin Zuzu mentioned. Zhang Ziluo was a little worried and couldn't help but want to ask for help. Lu Ting'an heard the name, thought about it carefully, shook his head and said, "Sister-in-law, I have never heard of this name. Who is this person? It sounds like a man's name." Zhang Ziluo said, "I don't know him either. I know him from a friend. I heard he is a scholar. If you are a scholar, don't your academy know him?" Lu Ting'an said, "If he is from our academy, I will remember his name when I hear it. If he has no impression, he is either not from our academy, or he is a poor student. Perhaps he is also someone who studies in a private school outside. Our college is the largest college in our county, and ordinary people cannot get in even if they are not knowledgeable. Don't worry, sister-in-law, I'll go back and help you find out." Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "Just ask in private, don't let anyone know." Zhang Ziluo thought that Lin Zuzu probably didn't want anyone to know about this. But Zhang Ziluo was still a little worried about Lin Zuzu after hearing what Lin Zuzu said. She is not a very kind person, but she has become familiar with Lin Zuzu on daily basis, and Lin Zuzu treats her really well. In her heart, she can no longer treat Lin Zuzu like a stranger. Besides, Lin Zuzu trusted her to tell her this. Zhang Ziluo smiled softly and said, "Thank you very much." Lu Ting'an saw the smile on his sister-in-law's face and rubbed his hands in embarrassment. "No. It's okay, no. You're welcome. I stuttered when I spoke. Sister-in-law is so polite, but her conversation seems nothing like that of a village girl." When Kui Hejin came out of the house, he saw Lu Ting'an smirking at Ziluo. His expression calmed down and he coughed lightly. Cough, cough. Lu Ting'an suddenly came back to his senses. "Brother Kui, what's wrong with you?" "Fine." Zhang Ziluo also quickly put down what she was doing, went over to hold Kui Hejin's hand and felt his pulse. Kui Hejin looked gentle at this time and allowed Zhang Ziluo to feel his pulse. "You should rest first, don't get tired. I'll look for some medicinal materials in a while, and I'll feel better if I drink some medicine." Zhang Ziluo thought that if she couldn't buy the medicinal materials in the pharmacy, she would try to find the required medicinal materials in the deep mountains and old forests. No matter how dangerous it is, Kui Hejin must be cured. Otherwise, when he coughed, her heart could not help but rise. Besides, some medicinal materials must cost at least 100 taels of silver to buy. Looking at Zhang Ziluo's frowning expression, Kui Hejin said, "I'm fine, don't worry. I was just choked." Looking at Zhang Ziluo's worried look, Kui Hejin thought that she would have to endure a cough next time even if she felt unwell. Although Kui Hejin said this, Zhang Ziluo knew best how Kui Hejin's body was. You can tell by taking your pulse. Next, Zhang Ziluo did not let Kui Hejin do anything and asked him to rest. But he wanted to go to the new house at the back. Lu Ting'an especially wanted to see the excitement. Kui Hejin could only take him there together. Zhang Ziluo said uneasily, "Brother Lu, help protect my husband for a while, and there will be a lot of people in the village for a while. Don't let others rush and squeeze him." Lu Tingan's eyes widened as he listened. Only then did he realize that his sister-in-law really cared about Brother Kui. That worried look doesn't look like he's faking it. Don't worry, sister-in-law, I will definitely protect Brother Kui. Zhang Ziluo and Mrs. Kui entered the house with snacks. At this moment, many children gathered around the house. The children were all chattering. My father said that today the Kui family will go up to the rafters and throw snacks. My parents also said that we should come here and wait. My mother will drive the ducks in the river home and we will come over soon. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 145. There are a lot of children in the village. They gather together and play, which is very lively to watch. Everyone was very excited knowing that they would be able to grab snacks soon. There are also old people in the village who have nothing to do and come over early with benches and horses to sit and talk. When the old ladies in the village get together, they can really talk for a long time. It doesn't mean things about whose family in the village, but things that have been seen and heard. Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but smile when she came to the back of the village and saw this scene. Before, everyone in the village was busy with their own affairs and it was hard to see that there were so many people. This time, I realized how lively it was when I saw the people occupying the streets and the children jumping and playing. Even people from neighboring villages came. Zhang Ziluo liked this atmosphere very much and couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. Zhang Ziluo said, I didn't expect there were so many people in the village. Mrs. Kui said, there are still many people who have not come over, and there will be more people soon. People in the village usually have nothing to do, but whenever there is excitement, every household will come over, not to mention you can grab snacks, which is a good thing for the villagers. If someone in our village sells dim sum, I will grab it too. Zhang Ziluo looked at Mrs. Kui in surprise. If she remembered correctly, Mrs. Kui was the legitimate daughter of the Hungnan Yang family. She was the wife of the former Kui Kuagong. Would you like to grab some snacks? Mrs. Kui smiled and looked at Zhang Ziluo's expression and explained, since I was exiled, I have understood a truth, that is, the most important thing is to have enough food and live. And by doing as the locals do, you can better integrate into an environment. Mrs. Kui understands all these. Maintaining her previous dignified attitude, she might have already starved to death. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed and she said, as soon as you come, let's make peace with it. Right, that is it. Mrs. Kui said, looking at the snacks in the bag and saying, fortunately, we made a lot more. Otherwise, there would be so many people, and it wouldn't be enough. No one has built a house in the village this year, and I don't know how others in the village get excited when they build a house. But according to what your Aunt Zhu said, there should be quite a few of us. Zhang Ziluo nodded. The snacks they make are small, sweet, and can be eaten directly. At this time, the food culture was backward, the conditions in the village were difficult, and there was not much delicious food. Everyone was very rare for such snacks. Thinking of the evolution of the village in the technological era, Zhang Ziluo felt a little sad. In the era of science and technology, many villages have been renovated, and few young people return to the villages. So much so that the village where many people missed their lives since childhood has become increasingly deserted. Even the New Year and the holidays are no longer as festive as before. It's better here, it looks lively. Especially the chirping sounds and running figures of the children make people feel very worldly. When people in the village saw Mrs. Kui and Zhang Ziluo coming, they all said hello. Seeing that it was almost time, Mrs. Kui went over and told Li Zheng to set off firecrackers. Then pass the snacks over and ask them to throw them on the rafters when the beams are being raised. Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and thought it was quite novel and said, Mom, can I go up and throw it away? This. Mrs. Kui was immediately asked. It's dangerous to be at such a high place. Mrs. Kui was indeed worried about the danger at high places, but when she saw Zhang Ziluo's interested eyes, she couldn't say no. Zhang Ziluo whispered, "Mom, it's okay, I will pay attention to safety. With her skills, she will protect herself well." But sometimes she would also seek opinions from family members. Otherwise, if she goes up on her own initiative, Mrs. Kui will be worried about what to do. Even the people in the village don't know what they will think. Mrs. Kui really didn't dare to make up her mind. She happened to see her son coming and said, "How about you ask He-jin, and if he agrees, I will agree." When Kui He-jin and Lu Ting'an came over, the little girls in the village directly said stunned. Even some women couldn't help but cast their eyes on him. He is the center of attention as soon as he appears. Master Kui is here. Too beautiful. It's a pity that Mr. Kui belongs to Zhang Ziluo. It doesn't matter if you look at it. Who is that person next to him? He looks like a scholar. Everyone was discussing. Little girls are thin-skinned and have a low voice. Those ladies and aunts don't care, they have loud voices whenever they speak. Even if she looks good, I don't blame Miss Zhang for wanting to marry her alive. You can't say that. Miss Zhang is such a good person. The most important thing is that she has medical skills to make her husband prosperous. Yes, the Kui family has obtained a treasure. No, after Zhang Ziluo got married, the Kui family built a house. I'm not happy to say something bad about Miss Zhang. My two sons help build a house, and they can get 20 cents from home every day. One person earns 10 cents a day, and two people earn 20 cents. After working for half a month, he earned more than 300 cents. The aunt was accompanying her grandson and talking, smiling so hard that her eyes narrowed into slits. It's true, since my family got money to go home every day, the food at home has improved a lot. Everyone was chattering away, and they were all grateful to the Kui family. Even if you have an extra 100 cents, you can buy a lot of food and subsidize your family. The most important thing is that counting the 10 cents every day is also very satisfying. When Kui Hejin came over, Mrs. Kui said to Kui Hejin, "Ziluo wants to go up to serve some snacks. I'm a little worried. Do you want to persuade her?" Yes, Mrs. Kui wanted to ask her son to persuade Zhang Ziluo. May be able to persuade. Zhang Ziluo blinked at Kui Hejin with clear eyes. "I want to go up and experience it." Kui Hejin's eyes flashed with a soft light and said, "Okay." Zhang Ziluo was surprised. He actually agreed. Kui Hejin said, "Don't worry, I will be down there. Even if she falls, he will catch her and not put her in danger." Looking at Kui Hejin's gentle look, Zhang Ziluo felt as if a stone had fallen into the lake of her heart, causing ripples layer by layer, and she could not calm down for a long time. My heartstrings seemed to have been struck hard. Zhang Ziluo smiled softly and said, "Okay." He was always so kind and gentle, making her unable to resist. After discussing it in this way, Li Zheng asked people to set off firecrackers. Set off firecrackers, which is equivalent to sending a message to the village. Many people who were still busy at work hurriedly dropped their work and ran over here. Zhang Ziluo also stepped on the ladder to the roof. She looked at the crowd below, and everyone looked up at her. "Mrs. Zhang, here, here. Mrs. Kui, raise it here. Here, raise more." Everyone shouted to Zhang Ziluo and stretched out their hands, waiting to receive snacks at any time. Zhang Ziluo felt very strange and had an indescribable feeling in her heart. Feeling the customs and atmosphere of the village, your body and mind can't help but relax. She smiled, grabbed some snacks from the cloth bag and spread them out. To be raised toward the crowds. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyu and Candy. Chapter 146. Here, and here. Everyone shouted, and Zhang's Hiluo threw snacks around to make sure there were snacks everywhere. After the song went down, the crowd cheered and rushed forward to grab it. If something fell on the ground, everyone hurriedly knelt down and picked it up. He didn't even care if there was dirt on it. He just wiped it lightly and quickly put it in the bag. Zhang's Hiluo experienced the feeling of whipping up a handful of dim sum, the corners of her mouth raised, and her eyebrows curved into a smile. Kui Hejin saw her happy face, with a faint smile on her face. Lu Tingan was talking to Kui Hejin next to him, and he was shocked when he suddenly saw the smile on Kui Hejin's face. He has known Brother Kui for so long, but he has never seen Brother Kui smile. When he followed Kui Hejin's eyes, he realized why Brother Kui was laughing. I was shocked and sighed for a long time. He could hear the chatter and laughter of the villagers. Oh, I got it, I got it. Such a beautiful snack, it smells delicious. And here, here. There are so many. Everyone who picked up the snacks shouted excitedly. Zhang's Hiluo is actually controlling it with wood-type abilities when serving snacks on it, so that everyone can get the snacks as much as possible. There were also children. Seeing their eager eyes, Zhang's Hiluo felt weak in her heart. Fortunately, she did a little more. When she lifted the snack, she controlled the speed when it reached the ground and fell into the hands of some children, trying to let them catch it. Seeing the children in the village smiling excitedly after getting the snacks, Zhang's Hiluo also had a smile on her face. It wasn't until after all the snacks were thrown that Zhang's Hiluo came down from the beam. Kui Hejin watched carefully from below, and he was relieved until Zhang's Hiluo landed safely. At this time, everyone came over with a smile to thank Zhang's Hiluo. Zhang's Hiluo responded to everyone with a smile. After Zhang's Hiluo worked hard for a few days, the house was completely completed. But the Kui family was not in a hurry to move in. Kui Hejin still remembered Zhang's Hiluo saying that she wanted to go back to her parents' home. He specially found a time to take half a day off. Zhang's Hiluo learned that Kui Hejin had asked for leave. When she was having lunch, she looked up at him and said, "Will asking for leave have any impact?" She didn't quite understand what private tutors were doing in this era. I feel like it's not that easy to ask for leave in modern times. Kui Hejin said, "They will endorse it this afternoon, so it won't affect it." Zhang's Hiluo thought for a while and said, "Actually, it's okay for me to go back by myself." Kui Hejin said warmly, "I promise to accompany you to your parents' place. If I don't go all the time, my parents will also be worried." Zhang's Hiluo thought the same thing. When she went back last time, her parents asked her why Kui Hejin didn't go. In the eyes of parents, after you get married, you usually take your husband back with you when you return to your parents' home. And the more times it happens, the people in Xinshan village will gossip when they see it. She is not worried about this, but her parents live in Xinshan village, and it is not good for the villagers to gossip and talk behind their backs. She also has to worry a little bit. After lunch, Zhang's Hiluo and Kui Hejin took the things they had prepared and went to Xinshan village. When she got home, Zhang's Hiluo saw the brown bark drying in the yard as soon as she entered the door. Zhang's Hiluo's eyes lit up. Did her parents find the bark of a palm tree? Sister-in-law, brother-in-law. Sister, brother-in-law. At this moment, the Zhang family had just finished lunch and packed up. Zhang Yunmian and Xianxian saw Zhang's Hiluo and Kui Hejin and ran out excitedly. Hearing the sound, Zhang Xiangchuan and the others also came out. The family happily cared about each other for a few words, then went into the house and sat down to talk. Zhang's Hiluo talked about the main purpose of this visit. "Dad, do you still have a bellows at home?" "The bellows is gone. Does my daughter need a bellows? I'll make another one." Zhang's Hiluo shook her head and said, "It's not that I need it. It's because a scholar friend of He-jin's went to his house and saw how useful the bellows was and wanted to buy one. Zhang Xiang Chuan and Ye were very happy when they heard that there were still people who wanted to buy bellows. You can earn more this way. With these business activities, our family will continue to have income. Zhang Ziluo saw that her parents, brothers, and sisters looked good, so she felt relieved. By the way, Mom and Dad, how are the sales of straw sandals going? Yet explained, our straw sandals have been selling well during these few fairs. But this time I went to the market, there was also a shop selling straw sandals in the market, although they are not as good as ours, the price is 4 cents cheaper each, and a lot of people bought them. But this is handiwork, now I can knit it skillfully, I can knit a pair when I have time, it doesn't affect my work, I can make more money by selling one pair. One market can sell hundreds of coins for money. This made Ye very satisfied. Zhang Ziluo looked towards the yard and said, Mom and Dad, I saw the brown skin in the yard. Did you find the brown skin? Speaking of this, Zhang Xiang Chuan had a smile on his face, thanks to your fourth brother for this. Your fourth brother has been traveling around a lot during this period, and he actually found a palm tree. It's not far from our house. There are 5 the look of the land. We went together as a family 2 days ago and came back with a lot of brown bark. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ziluo was very happy and said, Dad, this way we can make koi raincoats. I wrote down the detailed steps for making the koi raincoat on paper. Dad, you will understand it at a glance. Speaking, Zhang Ziluo gave the drawing to Zhang Xiang Chuan. Zhang Xiang Chuan's eyes lit up when he saw it. Daughter, your drawing is very detailed. Dad will know how to do it after seeing it. These brown skins can be used to make a dozen or so koi raincoats. If they are not enough, you can go to the mountains and cut them back, there are quite a few in that area. Zhang Xiang Chuan thought about it, made koi raincoats, and gave 3 pieces to his daughter and her family. This way, the girls can go out and do things easily on rainy days without having to worry about getting caught in the rain. I also make a few at home and keep them for later use. Zhang Ziluo said, Dad, you can make koi raincoats and sell them in the market. Ye thought for a while and said, I saw that there were people selling koi raincoats in the market before, but not many people bought them. Zhang Xiang Chuan said, the price is still too high. People in the village don't go out much when it rains. If they have to go out, they won't be willing to buy a raincoat even if they use straw to protect themselves from the rain. One piece costs more than 100 cents. Zhang Ziluo originally thought that the price could be cheaper, but once the price of the koi raincoats they sell becomes cheaper, it will destroy the market price balance. Other sellers of koi raincoats may still live on this little money. So price war is not the main issue. Zhang Ziluo said, Mom and Dad will make a few to sell first. If they are not easy to sell, we will use them for our own use. If you find bamboo, you can make an umbrella. When Zhang Ziluo was walking around the town before, she found that there were many people buying umbrellas. Zhang Yun wrote, Sister, I asked someone about it and they said we have seen bamboo here. Let's find out more about where it is. Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, if we have bamboo to make umbrellas, and an umbrella costs 300 cents, if more people buy it, we can make money. With that said, Zhang Ziluo also gave Zhang Xiang Chuan the drawings for making the umbrella. In this way, if you find bamboo, you can directly make an umbrella. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 147. After Zhang Ziluo had a conversation with her parents, her younger brothers and sisters gathered around Kui Hejin and listened to Kui Hejin telling stories and knowledge from books. Zhang Yunshu listened very carefully. After reading it, Zhang Ziluo whispered, I think my second brother likes reading very much. My husband also said that my second brother is talented. Zhang Xiang Chuan and Ye's expressions changed as soon as they heard the reading. Mom and Dad's expressions changed. Zhang Ziluo realized something and said, "Mom and Dad, our family's life will definitely get better in the future. We will be able to have enough to eat and wear warm clothes, and we will still have money in our hands." Although her parents dote on her, she will not be their boss. She wishes well for her younger brothers and sisters at home, but these are all arranged by her parents. Ye didn't want her daughter to misunderstand. She sighed and said, "Ziluo, my parents know that you wish your younger brothers and sisters well. But the world is not peaceful, and we heard that the emperor is not a good emperor. It's unrealistic to ask them to study and take exams like this. We just want you all to be well and safe, and we don't ask you to become officials and go to places like the capital." Zhang Ziluo was startled for a moment. After hearing what her mother said, she felt that she didn't look like a villager. "Have you ever been to Beijing?" Ye didn't dare to look at Zhang Ziluo's eyes. She lowered her head and said, "No, I haven't been there. I heard someone talk about it when I went to town, so I know a little bit about it." Zhang Ziluo didn't know much about the imperial court or the capital city of this era. But she knew that the current emperor exiled the Kui family, killed Kui Hejin's father and grandfather, and let Kui Hejin be tortured in prison. Kui Hejin had hidden injuries on his body, his martial arts was disabled, and his hand tendons were broken, all of which were caused at that time. Thinking of this, a dangerous cold light flashed across Zhang Ziluo's eyes. Zhang Xiangchuan also said, "Your mother is right. I have also heard some news. If it means a war, then it will be a war. Just stay safe." When Zhang Xiangchuan said this, he didn't know what he was thinking of, and he looked a little sad. Zhang Ziluo didn't mention reading. If the emperor is a wise king, he will naturally be able to do things for the people by studying and taking exams. If he is not a wise king, even passing the exams will be of no use. Even had to bear the emperor's thunderous wrath at every turn. Zhang Ziluo realized something and said, "Mom and Dad, it's just the beginning of spring. Let's plant more food. Whenever we have food in hand, we will feel more at ease." Zhang Ziluo hadn't thought much about it at first, but now she thought about it and realized that she still needed to eat more food. Even if there is a war, you can live for a long time by hiding in the mountains with food. Just come out when there is peace outside. Ye said, "Our family now has 3 acres of land, and the food we grow is enough for our family." Zhang Ziluo nodded. Zhang Ziluo also told her parents that she had earned some money during this period by making pot helmets and chili meat sauce. Then the house is also built. Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye were both happy for her. "Okay, now you have your own house to live in. Yes, you can live comfortably in your own house, and you can also grow some vegetables in the yard." Ye planted some vegetables in the yard. When eating on weekdays, she would pull some out in the yard, wash them, and then cook them directly. Very convenient. Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "Mom and Dad, you and your brothers and sisters will go over and have a look later. Let's go there when we have time. Now is the time for busy farming." In fact, Ye and Zhang Xiangchuan wanted to see the house built by their daughter and son-in-law. But they didn't want to cause trouble, so they said this. Chang Qiluo understands the truth very well that it is better to teach people how to fish than to teach them how to fish. They don't know how to use it, so it is better to teach them to make money. But my parents don't seem to want to set up a stall to make food. Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and said, "Mom and Dad, the business of chili meat sauce is good now. In the past 2 days, there have been many merchant ships ordering chili meat sauce from me at the dock, and they all have more than 10 or 20 bottles at once. You don't have to set up a stall, just make it at home and send it over." Zhang Ziluo first set up a stall at the pier to let everyone know that the chili con carne sauce is delicious. When more people eat it, everyone will naturally order from her. Of course, this was also publicized when the stall was set up, so everyone knew that they could order in advance. Many ship dealers ordered some from her. So she has been very busy these days. She set up a stall selling chili con carne in the morning. After a while, she sold out the chili con carne. Then she went home to make the chili con carne that everyone ordered. Zhang Xiangchuan and Yeshi were happy for Ji Luo, but Yeshi still said, "This is an idea you came up with. My parents can't use it." "Don't worry, the conditions at home are much better than before, and we can have enough to eat. Last time I went to the market, I even bought a caddy of meat and made dumplings to eat." Thinking of how happy the family was on the day they ate dumplings, Ye felt that her life was promising. She thought about how hard it was for the children at home to weave straw sandals, so every time they went to the market, buying something and making something delicious would be a reward for them. Seeing her parents' insistence, Zhang Ziluo could only say, "Mom and Dad, you can make pots and sell them, but you don't like to go to the dock to set up a stall. You can set up a stall every time you go to the market. You can sell straw sandals and koi raincoats, as well as leek boxes. I'm making chili con carne now, and I don't plan to make leek boxes. My parents can try this business. You don't have to work hard every day, just work a little while going to the market, business will be good." Now many people in Yangliu village have bought leek seeds, and it takes more than a month to plant them. Taking advantage of this month, my parents started a leek box business. After 1 month, we will make kuakui. Zhang Xiangchuan and Yeshi thought about it, and their expressions changed. "You don't have to work every day. You can set up a stall every time you go to the market. It's just, Ziluo, this is all your business idea. Mom and Dad, why are you being so polite to me? Besides, I won't do these two businesses anymore. My dad and mom can just set up a stall in the market. Besides, Dad can make a small food truck, so it's a good idea to use a small food truck to set up a stall. It's just that if you are busy doing eating, you need more firewood. In fact, you can also make things like pierced burritos, but Zhang Ziluo feels that this kind of thing is easy to imitate." Ye thought about it for a moment, but stopped talking. Zhang Ziluo said, "Mom, if you have anything, just tell me directly. Don't worry." Ye said, "Is it just that the market in Yangliu village is crowded and inconvenient? You helped me come up with ideas for my parents, but we were worried that we would be too busy setting up a stall and making food at the same time." Ye actually prefers the simpler method of selling straw sandals. She also knew that her daughter was doing it for their own good, but she still had some concerns. And she is not very good at cooking. You see, you are thinking about your family, and your parents are afraid of causing trouble to you. Ms. Ye also understands that when her family's life gets better, her daughter won't have to worry about them. So she should work harder, but she has no experience in setting up a food stall, so she is inevitably worried. Hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo understood from her mother's expression that it was not that easy for her to cook and eat on the spot at the market. Suddenly Zhang Ziluo thought of something, her eyes lit up, and she said, "Mom and Dad, you can make scallion pancakes or 1,000-layer pancakes to sell. Just make them at home. If you go to the market to buy them, just cut them into pieces and weigh them. This thing is not afraid of getting cold. Just cover it with a clean cloth when you go." End of chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 148. Zhang Ziluo said, "Just make a big scallion pancake, a big one, and put the 1,000-layer pancake on it. When someone comes to buy it, you can just cut it into a piece and sell it by the pound. Just do it at home, saving time and effort." Yes' expression changed and he said, "This is a good idea. But you also know that my cooking skills are very average, let alone the taste of the cakes I make." Having been to the market and seeing the food on the market, Ms. Ye didn't even dare to think that she could still set up a stall to make food. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Mom, don't worry, I know how to do it. I'll just teach you. How about we make scallion pancakes right now? Mr. Ye was also happy when her daughter taught her how to cook. She also suddenly became energetic and said, "Okay." Ye stood up and asked, "What do you want to prepare?" "I'll take it out." Zhang's Hiluo said, "We need flour, salt, warm water, pastry." Zhang's Hiluo told her mother everything she needed. Ye heard this and asked, "What is butter cake?" This is the first time that Mr. Ye has heard the term yusu, and he doesn't know what it is. Zhang's Hiluo said, "This is a pastry made with oil, flour, salt, and onion seasoning. I'll make the adjustments, mom will prepare the things first." Good. As soon as they heard that they were going to make food, Zhang's Hiluo's two younger sisters, Zhang Yunhua and Zhang Yunmian, also came over. "Sister, let's help you." Zhang's Hiluo said with a smile, "Okay, you can get started in a while and see how to make it. Once you learn how to make it, you can make scallion pancakes." Zhang Yunhua and Zhang Yunmian nodded seriously. After Mrs. Ye had prepared everything, Zhang's Hiluo said, "Mom, knead the flour, salt, and warm water in proportion to make a softer dough." With that said, Zhang's Hiluo took out a basin, put it into the basin according to the proportions, and told her mother by the way. Ye remembered it seriously in her heart. Even Zhang Yunhua and Zhang Yunmian watched and memorized it carefully. Ye started kneading the dough. Zhang's Hiluo was about to mix the dough and said, "Mom, do you have any onions?" Zhang Yunmian hurriedly said, "Sister, there are some in the yard. I'll go and pull the onions." Zhang's Hiluo nodded and said, "Well, prepare the onions." Zhang Yunhua knew that a fire was needed, so he also went to the yard to take the firewood to the stove, ready to help light the fire at any time. Zhang's Hiluo said, "Third sister, you light the fire, and I'll heat up the oil." Good. After the oil is hot, season the gingerbread with flour, salt, and hot oil seasonings. After Zhang Yunmian washed the green onions, cut Zhang's Hiluo into chopped green onions and put them in, stirring them together. Of course the seasoning is something that comes from her space. "Mom, I'll leave these seasonings for you, you don't need to add them later, it will taste better if you add a little, in fact, you can just add salt on weekdays." Ye nodded and said, "Okay." She also watched the steps her daughter took to pick out the pastry and remembered it in her mind. In this way, the whole family is busy together. Soon, Mr. Ye kneaded the dough. Zhang Xiangchuan couldn't sit still and looked at the drawings of the koi raincoat that his daughter gave him. He took the things and went to the yard to start making the koi raincoat. Zhang Yunchu, Zhang Yunzhen, and Xianxian all gathered around Kui Hejin to listen to him talk about the knowledge in the book. The family got busy and busy. After Ye made the dough, greased it with oil and let it rest, he took out the panel and started rolling it out. After rolling it out, Zhang's Hiluo spread the pastry on it. What to do next? Zhang's Hiluo showed me how to do it and said, place the two sides in the middle, stretch them into a long strip, and roll them up. It's similar to how my mother used to make oil-based steamed buns. I remember that my mother used to make oil-based steamed buns and roll them like this. Zhang's Hiluo actually also likes to eat oily steamed buns. Zhang Yunhua and Zhang Yunmian were excited just by looking at them, looking forward to eating delicious food. Even though they had just had lunch, they still felt a little hungry. In fact, after applying this pastry, they all smelled delicious. They remember that they could only occasionally eat oily steamed buns during the Chinese New Year. Can't eat it at all on weekdays. However, the conditions at home are much better now. I can make money by going to the market, and my mother sometimes cooks delicious food. Last time I went to the market, the stir-fry lady added meat, which was so delicious. They still think about it now when they think about it. Moreover, my mother cooked the food according to the method my sister told me, and it was delicious. It just consumes a bit of oil, but my mother said that we should plant more peanuts this year so that we can get more oil. Zhang's Hiluo's heart softened when she saw the helpless expressions on the third sister and the fifth sister. Zhang's Hiluo said, it will taste better if you eat it with scallion pancakes. By the way, Mom, the chili meat sauce I brought here is only slightly spicy, so you can eat it with scallion pancakes. Zhang's Hiluo first brought 6 bottles of chili meat sauce. She thought that it would take a long time to eat. When they had almost enough to eat, she would bring some more. Ye said, you and He-jin don't need to bring so many things when you come back next time. We will be very happy when you come back. Ye didn't want her daughter and son-in-law to bring anything back, she just wanted her daughter and son-in-law to live a good life, and she felt relieved. Zhang Ziluo said, Mom, I don't have many things, just a little thought. She also feels sorry for her parents. If she can show her kindness when she comes back, she will feel better. Either she always feels uncomfortable, feeling that her parents have raised her up, but she has not been filial to her. Ye said in a low voice, my mother will be very happy if you come back often. Even if you bring things back in big and small bags, your mother-in-law won't say anything, so don't have any grudges in her heart. Ye was afraid that her daughter would be wronged. Although she knew that Ziluo's mother-in-law was a nice person, she still couldn't help but think about it. Zhang Ziluo knew what her mother was worried about, so she comforted her and said, Mom, don't worry, my mother-in-law helped prepare everything. Yes, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, that's really good. I see that Hejin is very considerate to you and has a good temper. She is really good-tempered. Your brothers like him very much. Ye couldn't help but admire him. Zhang Ziluo turned back to look at where Kui Hejin was sitting, feeling warm, elegant and unparalleled in beauty. When he lowered his head to explain knowledge to his 2 younger brothers, his eyebrows were gentle. Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. At this moment, Kui Hejin looked over, caught off guard, and their eyes met in the air. Zhang Ziluo felt as if she had been electrocuted, and her heart felt like it was hot. She quickly looked away. Of course, Ye didn't know. She just lowered her head and rolled the cake and said, I also want to be a good mother-in-law when your brothers get wives. Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, Mom must be a very good mother-in-law. I couldn't help but miss you, so I thought to myself, a woman is a treasure in her mother's family, there is no reason why our family should not treat her well if she comes. Zhang Ziluo gave a thumbs up and said, my mother is still transparent. The mother and daughter were chatting and laughing as they rolled out the rolled cake again. Is this good? Zhang Ziluo said, it can be fried in the pan. Fry both sides. Zhang Yunmian said excitedly, I'll light the fire. Zhang Yunmian had a lively temper. Zhang Yunhua calmed down for a moment. Before he could react, his sister had already gone to Zayaka. Zhang Ziluo found that after returning this time, her third sister also laughed a lot. Unlike before, he just lowered his head and said nothing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 149. Zhang Ziluo smiled softly, that's good. Everyone is getting better. After Zhang Yunhua also went to Zayaka, Zhang Ziluo said, Mom, when I come back this time, third sister is smiling and talking more than before. A gratified smile appeared on MRS's face, and she said, perhaps during this period, we all made money together by making Maltos weaving straw sandals. Your third sister is happy and feels more confident than before. Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, well, that's good. Mom, believe me, third sister's face will definitely get better. Ye said seriously, yes, mother believes it. At this moment, Mr. Ye felt that his whole body was full of energy and that his life was heading forward. Seeing each of the children getting better, I feel indescribably happy. After Zhang Yunmian lit the firewood and heated the pot, Zhang Ziluo poured oil into the pot, and then used a shovel to help spread the oil evenly on the edge of the pot. The villages here all use large pots, and cooking, and cooking are all done in one big pot. There is no modern pan. After the oil is hot, Zhang Ziluo puts the scallion pancakes in and fries them. Such a big piece of bread is difficult to flip when flipping. The shovel cannot turn it over at all. Ye said, "I'm coming." When one side was almost fried, Ye reached out and took both sides of the cake and flipped it over quickly and skillfully. "Mom, be careful because it's hot." Ye said, "When I occasionally made pancakes in the past, I just flipped them in the pot and it didn't feel hot. After flipping it back and forth, the cake will be cooked quickly." The aroma of scallion oil spread out. Zhang Yunmian sat on the stove and lit the fire, smelled the fragrance, sniffed hard and said, "It smells so good." She felt like her mouth was watering. Ye couldn't help but laugh and said, "It tastes really good. I just had lunch and I want to eat when I smell it." Even Zhang Yunhu looked into the pot without blinking, his eyes bright. Even Zhang Yunzhen and the others on the other side could smell the fragrance. Zhang Yunzhen was listening to the stories in his brother-in-law's book. He was so mesmerized that when he suddenly smelled the fragrance, he couldn't help but said, "It smells so good." Xian said, "Sister, I make delicious food." He got down from the chair and ran towards Zhang Ziluo quickly, not caring about listening to the story. Zhang Yunshu could sit still and continue to stay with his brother-in-law. Xian came to Zhang Ziluo and looked into the pot. Zhang Ziluo noticed his figure, and her heart turned into a puddle of water when she saw his soft and cute look. Zhang Ziluo knelt down and picked him up. Xian said, "Sister, I'm heavy, I can't burden my sister." Zhang Ziluo smiled and said, "Our Xian is not heavy, and I can carry it." Xian happily put her arms around Zhang Ziluo's neck. Looking down from this height, you can clearly see the pot, cake. "Yes, I'm making scallion pancakes. They'll be cooked in a while. Let Xian have a taste. My mother and brothers and sisters all eat it." Although Xian is young, he is very sensible and never eats alone. If there is delicious food, he also wants to eat with his brothers and sisters. Zhang Ziluo touched his hair and felt that Xuan's hair was also very thick. Xian stayed in Zhang Ziluo's arms for a while and said, "Sister, I'm coming down. Why don't you watch it?" Xian nodded and said, "I'll go find my brother-in-law." Actually, Xian thought that sister would get tired if she held him for a long time, so he wanted to come down to prevent sister from getting tired. "Okay." Zhang Ziluo put Xian down, "You would rather get close to your brother-in-law." Xian said seriously, "Brother-in-law, hello." Zhang Ziluo felt a little funny, why is brother-in-law fine? Xian tilted his head and thought for a moment, then said, "The stories my brother-in-law tells are nice, and my words are nice to listen to and read." Ye was flipping the scallion pancakes and said with a smile, "How can you tell whether it looks good or not at such a young age?" Xian said seriously, "It looks good." Ye thought to herself, Kui Hejin's child is not good looking. Just sitting there, his appearance is peerless and his temperament is like that of a fairy. Such a person must be popular throughout the capital. If he had not been exiled, most people would not recognize such a person. Even Xian instinctively likes and wants to get close to him, which shows that he is a very good person. Moreover, he accompanied Ji Lufei when she came back from the festival. Her expression was gentle from beginning to end, without a trace of displeasure, which showed that her character was also very good. Yip will be satisfied no matter how he sees it. As he was talking, a scallion pancake was already fried. Ye continued to fry the second scallion pancake. After making 2 large scallion pancakes, Ye thought she would keep one at home to taste it and gives Ziluo the other to take home. When done, place it on a large grate. Zhang Ziluo took out a knife and cut a piece, and then cut the piece into small pieces. "Mom, have a taste. Ya said, Zhiluo, try it. If you think it tastes good, we can set up a stall. Taste every piece. Zhang Zhiluo took a plate, put it on the plate and handed it to her two sisters. Zhang Yunmian said, Sister, I'm lighting a fire and my hands are dirty. I'll eat it later. You and third sister can eat it. Zhang Zhiluo blew, took a small piece with her hand and handed it to Zhang Yunmian's mouth and said, It's a little hot, eat it slowly. Zhang Yunmian chuckled, opened his mouth and ate a piece. He fed Zhang Yunmian a piece, and Zhang Zhiluo asked Zhang Yunhua to eat it too. Zhang Yunmian took it into his mouth and exclaimed excitedly, Wow, sister, this is so delicious. I have never eaten such delicious scallion pancakes. Yes said, our family also bought scallion pancakes once during the Chinese New Year. Now that I think about the taste, I think this one is more delicious. After comparison, Ye knew that the scallion pancakes made according to this method could be sold at a stall. This gave her confidence and confidence. Zhang Yunhua also thought it was delicious when she ate it. She whispered, Mom, can we set up a stall to sell scallion pancakes? She also knows what my sister told my mother. I know that my sister taught my mother to do this so that they could set up a stall and do business to make money. Ye said, Of course, that's great. Someone should buy it. Zhang Zhiluo took a bite and nodded inwardly, Mom, it tastes good. Let's make scallion pancakes in this way. When setting up a stall, you can cut it into many small pieces, just a little, so that everyone can have a taste. When someone comes over and is hesitant to buy something, you can let them try a piece for free. Mr. Ye nodded and said, Yes, I really want everyone to have a taste at the beginning. Ye looked at Zhang Zhiluo who was thinking, and urged, You decorate it and give it to Hexen. Zhang Zhiluo nodded, cut a few pieces and put them on a plate, then took them to Kui Hejin. This is the freshly made scallion pancake, it's just come out of the pan, try it. Zhang Yunzhen said excitedly, Sister, I smelled the fragrance just now. It smells so fragrant. Needless to say, it must be delicious. With that said, Zhang Yunzhen hurriedly said, Brother-in-law, you eat? Although Zhang Yunzhen can't wait to taste it, they have been taught a good habit since they were young, that is, when their elders are in front of them, they should eat things first. Zhang Zhiluo also blinked her clear eyes and looked at Kui Hejin, wanting to hear his evaluation. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 150. Zhang Zhiluo thought to herself that Kui Hejin had lived in the capital before and had such a distinguished status, so he must have eaten all kinds of delicious food. Even the food cooked by the royal chef must have been eaten. So if he thinks it tastes good, it must be good. Kui Hejin looked at Zhang Zhiluo and met her clear eyes, her picturesque eyes tinged with a clear smile. He picked up a small piece with chopsticks, took a bite and tasted it. Even the movements of eating are very elegant. Zhang Yunchu and Zhang Yunzhen looked at it and felt that every move their brother-in-law made was so beautiful. No wonder my sister was so insistent on marrying him. Zhang Zhiluo couldn't help but ask, How does it taste? Kui Hejin looked at the expectant expression and smiled softly. In an instant, he had a magnificent temperament. Very good. Zhang Zhiluo smiled and said, Then I'll be relieved. In this way, my parents will make a lot of income from the business of making scallion pancakes. This way, the younger brothers and sisters can not only have enough to eat every day, but also improve their food. Zhang Zhiluo returned to the stove and said to Mrs. Ye, Mom, when you go to the market in the future, make more scallion pancakes and cover them with a clean cloth. If anyone buys them, sell them by the pound and cut a piece for everyone. Ye said, This is good. You don't need to bring too many things, and it is convenient to go to the market. Thanks to you Zhiluo, our family can now eat white noodles. Before, we could not bear to eat wheat noodles, so we only ate multigrain noodles. The family also has income, and during this period, including selling bellows, I also earned almost 1000 yuan. Thinking of the joy of counting money, Mr. Ye's smile almost overflowed from his eyes. Zhang Yunhua said softly, "Mom, I will also help." Ye nodded and said, "Okay." She said to Zhang Ziluo, "Your third sister is careful and quick in her work. The food she makes is more delicious than mine." Zhang Ziluo praised, "This shows that third sister is talented in cooking." Zhang Yunhua lowered his head and said, "No, I just want to help my parents." Zhang Yunhua instinctively felt inferior. When he was praised, he felt at a loss and felt flattered. Zhang Ziluo affirmed Zhang Yunhua seriously, "Third sister, don't belittle yourself, you are very good." Zhang Yunhua knows that Sanmei has such a temperament, and must constantly affirm and encourage her before she can become confident. The most important thing is to heal her face. However, Xinglan Medical Clinic has not reopened yet. Zhang Ziluo also wanted to buy some medicinal materials. In the past few days, after deducting the wages for building a house and some money for customizing furniture and buying tiles, Zhang Ziluo only had 8 taels of silver in her hands. However, the house will be built soon, the expenses will not be big, and the earnings can be saved. Fortunately, the medicinal materials I bought earlier helped Mrs. Kui take care of her body, so Mrs. Kui's health was fine. But Kui Hejin's physical trauma has not healed yet. Fortunately, she used spiritual spring water and secretly used wood powers to nourish his body from time to time. His body became more stable and he rarely coughed. Zhang Ziluo took the cake to the yard for her father to eat. Zhang Xiangchuan was busy making koi raincoats and said, "Dad, if you're not hungry, you can just eat." Zhang Ziluo watched her father raking heels. Zhang Xiangchuan put the iron rake under his feet and stepped on it, then took the rake heels with brown skin and made a lot of them. Zhang Ziluo said, "Dad, making the koi raincoat won't be finished for a while. It may take a few days." Zhang Xiangchuan said, "I know, but Dad can't sit still, so he feels more at ease when he does something. When people are idle, they feel anxious. When they have something to do, they feel at ease. And this thing can also be used to make money by setting up a stall, so Dad is very motivated." Zhang Xiangchuan told the truth. But he was afraid it would rain again and his daughter and her family would have nothing to protect them from the rain. "Hurry up and make it ready to send to your daughter's family. Even during the busy farming season, when it rains, even if it doesn't rain too much, everyone will plow in the rain. If you have a raincoat, you won't be afraid of getting caught in the rain." Zhang Ziluo looked at the smile on her father's face, and she also felt happy. "Dad, our family has 1.5 acres of land planted with winter wheat. Is the rest of the land planted with corn and peanuts?" Zhang Xiangchuan nodded and said, "Well, grow more corn. The corn yield will be larger, and we can grind it into flour, which will be enough for our family. We also need to buy more peanuts. If our family is doing food business this year, we will definitely use more oil than usual. I also need to grow some vegetables so that I can eat them at home." Zhang Xiangchuan was chattering to his daughter about farm work. In the past, Zhang Xiangchuan and Mr. Ye were reluctant to let their daughter work, and Zhang Ziluo usually did not need help in farming. But now that Ziluo is getting married, there are some things she needs to understand, so Zhang Xiangchuan tells her more. Zhang Ziluo nodded. At mid-afternoon, Kui Hejin and Zhang Ziluo went back. At the end of March, the house was completely built, and Zhang Ziluo and the others moved into the new house. The former fenced courtyard was still the house of the Li Zheng family. The people in the village are also busy farming. Mrs. Kui and Zhang Ziluo were busy doing business in the morning, and then went to work in the fields in the afternoon. Winter wheat was planted at the end of last year, and now they are planting corn, peanuts, and vegetables. The Kui family only has 1 acre of land. Previously, half of the acre was planted with wheat, and this half-acre is planted with peanuts, corn, and vegetables. Since there were no oxen, Zhang Ziluo pulled the plow in front and Mrs. Kui pushed it behind. Looking at Zhang Ziluo's hard work in front, Mrs. Kui's nose felt distressed. Ziluo, come and pull me, you push me from behind. Kui Hejin originally said that he would come back to farm after class in the afternoon, but Zhang Ziluo didn't want Kui Hejin to be tired. Although Kui Hejin didn't say anything, Zhang Ziluo knew that his body was actually very weak and he would get tired when he exerted himself. Zhang Ziluo said, "Mom, don't be tired. I am naturally very strong." Zhang Ziluo didn't use brute force. She used the wood ability, so she couldn't be tired. Just as Zhang Ziluo was pulling a plow in front of her to create a ditch in the field, a figure suddenly loomed over her. Zhang Ziluo was busy farming and didn't pay attention. At this time, I looked up and saw Kui Hejin's figure. "Hey, Kui, he hibiscus." Zhang Ziluo's tongue was spinning in surprise. In fact, she thought she was hallucinating. Kui Hejin went to school tomorrow morning. It's only half the afternoon, even if get out of class ends, it won't be so early. Kui Hejin's eyes flashed with a look of pity. His clear bones and slender white fingers gently tidied her messy hair, and said softly, "It's me. You go and rest, I'll come." Zhang Ziluo raised her head and looked at the sky and said, "Are you finishing school so early today?" Kui Hejin said, "The school has 3 days of spring break." Zhang Ziluo said, "I didn't expect there would be spring break. I'm actually not tired at all." Zhang Ziluo felt that she could do it for a while longer. Kui Hejin's eyes were darkened, and his cold voice was stubborn as he said, "Obey, go and sit aside for a while." Zhang Ziluo looked over following Kui Hejin's voice and saw a small stool on the ridge of the field. She and Mrs. Kui didn't bring any stools when they came.